Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this lecture we are going to discuss about Hibernate on JPA caching. So before discussing about caching, so what is the problem behind that? Okay, so why we are implementing caching and what is the purpose we are enabling caching in our application? What is the purpose? So before that I just want you to explain problem statement. Okay, so generally in real time, let me tell you one simple example. Let's say uh, select star from person where person underscore id is equal to 13. Assume so we are requesting one API to fetch person details whose number is 13. Okay, person id is 13, so we want to fetch person details, okay, whose number is 13. So whenever if you are we are fetching person details 13, let's explain you REST API. One simple example from postman or REST client, anything. So from REST client or web application, when we are sending request to server, let's say here it will be when you send the request from client to server, whether it is web application or REST client or mobile app, whichever it is, web or mobile app, anything, anywhere. So whenever we are sending request from any one of these clients, uh, let's say sending get person details, find person details API you are calling. Assume you are calling person API. Okay, find person API you are calling. So 13 or you like this path param. Okay, let's assume you are trying to find the API, find person slash 13. Let me give complete URL so that you will have proper localhost colon 8080 slash find person. Okay, let's assume we are trying to fetch this API. Okay, so here when we are trying to fetch this API, request will go to controller, right? Controller and real time environment, generally it will request will go to controller and then service, from service layer repository layer. So repository layer will talk to database, right? DB database, or let me write like this, database. So whenever we are sending request from REST client or web application or mobile app, so we are trying to fetch this API find person 13. Okay, so request will go to controller and from controller to service layer, and then it will go to repository layer. So repository layer will talk to database, right? So repository or DAO layer, you can take anyone. Okay, so repository layer or DAO layer will talk to database. So from the database same direction results will come back. So whenever you are using JPA repository, so let's assume you are using JPA repository. Okay, so whenever we are using JPA repository, so Hibernate will fire a query to fetch person details, right? So it will fetch the query, it will generate the query in background, right? Select star from person, like that. person where person underscore id equal 13. Hibernate will generate the query to fetch the person details whenever we are trying to fetch some example API. Okay, so similar, let's assume, so you have logged into the application, web application or anything, any one of the application, then you are trying to find your details, personal information. Okay, just you click the personal details, you are trying to fetch the person information from the database. So let's assume this is transaction 1, request 1 or transaction 1. Transaction 1, let's assume transaction 1, you send the request. So request will go to controller. From REST client to request will go to controller, and then service, and service to JPA repository. So JPA repository will talk to the database. Let's assume same request if you send again, this is transaction 1. Okay, so you got the results response back and Hibernate generated the query. So like this, so in real time environment, multiple you may fetch the details, the same details, nothing but find employee 13. Again, let's assume you send the request again, so third time, so third time also query will be generated in database. So as many number of times if you send the request to fetch the specific user information or person information or any, I just took one simple example, guys. Okay, so this request can be anything. Whenever we are JPA is trying to connect with database, whenever we need the details of person details, every time Hibernate will generate for each and every request. For example, first you are trying one transaction, so Hibernate is generated query to fetch the person information. So again, so when you try second time, so transaction 2, let's assume transaction 2 in the sense second request, you are trying to next transaction 3, and then transaction 4. While sending first request, so Hibernate will generate the query to fetch the person information. So Hibernate will always, JPA repository or Hibernate will always talk to database. Again, if you try, you are trying to fetch again same information, let's assume you are trying multiple times, so that time again Hibernate will connect with the database, and again it will generate the query. And second third request also same, and fourth request also same. So whenever we are trying to send same request multiple times, it will connect, JPA repository always will connect with database, and it will always fetch the results from the database. It will always fetch the results from the database. So we need a person information 13. So every time, so whenever we want 13, well, let's assume 10 users are trying to fetch the same user information from different clients or different machines. So that time what will happen, so whenever this API is being called, every time Hibernate will generate the SQL statement to fetch the results from database. So if you send 100 requests, 100 times query is generated to fetch the details from the database. So for example, if you, I will tell you one another example, real time example. Let's say in Flipkart or Amazon web app or web application, when you if you are watching mobile, so for example you are trying to purchase the mobile, when if you click for example Samsung mobile, you are trying to select, so you have just select the Samsung mobile, then it's a request went to the server, response come back. So like this, as many number of times if you visit that same mobile you want to visit in that cart, so every time database will be generating the query and then sending results or response back from the database. So sending same results, request we are sending we are requesting same results multiple times, or different users from different machines and requesting for similar kind of API. If anyone 100 users are able to try parallelly trying to fetch a similar kind of API, then every time Hibernate will generate the query to fetch the results from the database. So this will cause a performance issue, right? So we can every time connecting database will be, it will be network round trip, it will be network round trip. So every time connecting database and getting results, we are trying same information, same APIs multiple times whenever you are calling. So fetching data from the database, every time same query will be generated in database, and every time one database call will be happen, right? Every time one database call is happening in background. So let's assume if this database is available in local machine, okay, whatever API you are fetching, this API and the database both are in same machine, so performance will be little bit fast because both are in same machine. Let's assume this database installed in remote server, not in same machine. So that time our application will try to connect with this database in remotely, right? So remote machine, from the server, whichever host address we have given to connect the database. So this API will always try to connect with database where this data, let's assume this database is available in another machine or another server, not in same machine. So that time also, whenever you are sending same API multiple times and connecting database every time, it will cause a performance issue. So if you are trying to fetch the information one time, so Hibernate is generating the query. So second time it is generating, third time it is connecting the database, fourth time it is again firing the request. So instead of that, so what are all the information, same request if it is going multiple times, so we know it, Hibernate is having caching concept. Hibernate caching or JPA caching came into picture. Instead of generating multiple times, instead of connecting generating query to fetch the results from the database only one time in the sense, whenever you are trying similar kind of request, whenever first time only will fetch the results from the database, and then whenever you are fetching after first time, if you send 100 times, it will not connect, Hibernate will not generate the query to fetch the results from database. So these results, whatever API, those results will be stored in cache. So Hibernate is having two levels of caching. One is first level caching and second level caching. So let me type it here. Hibernate is providing two types of caching, two levels of caching. First level caching and second level caching. So Hibernate is providing two levels of caching. So second level caching I will explain you later. So first let's discuss about first level caching. So let's see now what will happen. So I will show you with example. So what is the problem and how we are going to resolve that problem. Okay. So let's now, so in database we have a person table. So in database I have a person table, and person table is having two records, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. Okay. So now I can fetch the Rohit Sharma details. So user number 3, I am trying to fetch the Rohit Sharma details from the database. Okay, let's assume, let me, I think server already in starting mode. Let me stop the server. So let me clear the console. So I am using command line runner to test our to find the person details. Okay, so now what will happen? So when JPA repository dot find by ID, and then what will happen? One database request will go, right? So let's see now. Clear the console, and let me start the server now. We are just fetching the person information. Okay. if you check it here, if you observe here, see select column names from person, where person id is called. See, one query is generated, nothing but it is trying to connect with the database to get the results. So one request went successfully, so Hibernate is generated query to fetch the person information, right? So now for the time being we have, let me show you, we have only one one query is generated, right? Because we are trying to fetch the person information, and Hibernate is generated person information. Okay, so Hibernate generated the query to fetch the person details. So let me try to fetch one more time, we'll see what will happen. So let me paste it here. I want to fetch one more time. You have to understand the concept, guys. Okay, so person 1 and person 1 here, person details fetch one. Okay, to make you understand, fetch one time, and here person details fetch two times. Okay, so here also I am fetching person information, and here also I am fetching person information. So let me clear the console, and now we are trying to fetch the same person. So Rohit Sharma, 3 L's. Okay, so Rohit Sharma, we are trying to fetch Rohit Sharma details two times. So let me save the file, so we'll check the log. If you observe in console, so one time, if you see one time, first time query is generated. See, when it is trying to fetch when it is displaying fetch one Rohit Sharma details, right? So first time only it is generated the query. If you observe second time, when it is trying to fetch second time, there is no query generated, only query is generated once. And second time when you are trying to fetch same results, but Hibernate is not generating the query to fetch the results from database. So from where these details are came, these details are came from by using first level caching. So Hibernate is not created the query to fetch the person details from the database. Okay, so here whenever you are trying to fetch first time only Hibernate is generated the query, right? So second time whenever you are trying to fetch same details, that time it is not generated the query in background. So now you have question, from where results came now without fetching the query, without using query, from where details are came? By using Hibernate first level cache. So in Hibernate or JPA, so by default first level cache will be enabled. So we no need to do any configuration to enable first level caching. By default, any application, if you are using Hibernate or JPA and anything, so you no need to do any single line configuration. By default Hibernate will enable first level caching without doing any configuration. So when now let's try. So if you have doubt, then we'll try. Let me clear the console, we'll run in debug mode, and I will show you one more time. Okay, let me put breakpoint here, and then let me run in debug mode. Let me run server in debug mode. Okay, breakpoint came successfully. Let me clear the console. Okay, so the if you can see, guys, so I just cleared the console. There is no log available in console, right? So now what I will do, so whenever find by id method is executed, so Hibernate will generate the query. So let me put one more breakpoint here, and just I am executing function f8. See, whenever person repository data find by id is being called, so 3l Rohit Sharma l, okay, 3l, l in the sense long, so that's the reason I have given l. So find whenever we are trying Rohit Sharma details to fetch from the database, so Hibernate is generated. You can see in console Hibernate is created the query to fetch the results from database, right? So now we'll see second time what will happen. Let me put breakpoint here one more time. You can observe the console, guys. Okay, function f8. So now request came here, so the person details are printed, and then now I am trying to fetch person details again. Okay, second time. Let's see what will happen, whether Hibernate is generating query or not. So let me put one more breakpoint here, function f8. Now if you see, there is no query generated after executing second statement, so second transaction. So first transaction already done, and second time we are trying to do same transaction matter, similar kind of details we are trying to fetch. So that time Hibernate is not generated, function f8. If you observe the console, see, second time, first time only Hibernate is generated the query to fetch the results from database. Second time it's not generated the query. So what does it mean? So second time, whenever trying to fetch same details, Hibernate is not generated query to fetch results from database. Then question, so from where these details came? These details are coming from Hibernate first level cache. So now you have doubt actually, sir, where that first level cache will be stored. So where these details are storing in first level cache, some people may have doubt now. So now let me explain you one concept. Okay, so here let's assume here only, let's take the same example. Let me close this eclipse issue, you no need to bother about it. So here if you observe, so this is first request, and same request we sent again, right? So first request will be one. So this method, actually this method, whole method we are added under one transaction. So because we have declared at the rate transactional, so first level cache always under one transaction. Okay, whenever first level cache is enabled, that is one transaction. Okay, once per transaction. So for example, to make you understand, let me remove this transactional annotation. What will happen? So first level cache should be always within the single transaction boundary only, it will work. Single transaction boundary in the sense, so this method I have declared, along with this method I have declared at the rate transactional annotation. The moment you declare at the transaction annotation, so whatever statements we are executing here, only within the one transaction only, uh, all the statements will be execute. So if you remove this, what will happen, we'll see. Let me stop the server and clear the console. I just remove the transactional. So let me run in debug mode again. You have to understand the concept, guys. So first level cache always run within the transaction only. So now let me clear the console. Let me fetch the details, function f8. See, first time Hibernate is generated the query, and then second time let me execute second time as well. So let me maximize the console so you can watch. So function f8. So now I am trying to fetch second time same details. What will happen, function f8. See, Hibernate is generated one more time. What does it mean? So earlier I have declared a whole method as within the one transaction. Okay, so now if you don't specify one transactional annotation along with this method wherever you are executing these statements, if you don't specify transactional annotation, what will happen? So each and every database request will be one new transaction. So JPA repository find by ID is one transaction, and again second time also it will create another transaction. So here two transaction new transactions are created. So whenever while executing first transaction, first statement, one new transaction is created in background, and whenever we are trying to fetch one more time, so the here one more new transaction is created. So that is the purpose Hibernate is, since it is a new transaction. So per Hibernate first level cache will work for within one transaction. So each and every single transaction will have Hibernate caching. So here first statement, whenever it is executing, one new transaction is generated, so that within that new transaction first level cache is enabled. And again, so when we execute second time, again one more second new transaction is created in background, and another new first level cache will be enabled. So that is the reason Hibernate is twice generated the queries to fetch the results from database, since we are trying to fetch first time, and here we are trying to fetch second time. So if both are now individual transactions, so that is the reason Hibernate is generating every time, since it is individual transactions. So for each and every transaction, one since it is a new transaction, Hibernate is always trying to fetch the results from database. I hope you guys are understood, right? First level cache will work only within the one transaction boundary only. Within the one single transaction, each and every first level cache will work within the boundary of single transaction. So now let me execute completely. So now you can see two times it is generated, right? So now to make you understand, again let me clear the console. Now let me enable the transaction in as a single transaction. So this time what will happen? So whenever you are declaring a method with the transactional annotation, then this entire method will become as a one single transaction. So now let me execute completely. So since it is a one single transaction, if you go and check the console, Hibernate is generated query only one time, and second time it is trying to fetch the details from Hibernate first level cache. So I hope you guys are understood, right? First level cache. So first level cache will be available within the one single transaction. Within that boundary only will work. So whenever if you create new transaction, that time every time whenever you are trying to fetch same details, so if you are generating new transaction, then every time database query will be generated and results are fetching from database. If you declare hold all the statements as a one single transaction, then first time only Hibernate will generate the query, and as many number of time if you fetch the results, Hibernate will not fetch the details from database. Hibernate will always fetch the details from first level cache. So let me write few more statement to make you understand. Okay, let me write one more time. Control C. I want to print same details, I want to send same request details multiple times. Control Shift F to organize the imports. So let me person 2, person 2, person 3. So same request I am sending multiple time, guys. Okay, this should be person 3 and person 3 and person 4, person 4. So let me organize organize the code. So now this time see what will happen. I just clear the console, and in SOP I will put fetch one time, second time, and let me fetch third time, and let me fetch fourth time, and let me fetch five times. Okay, so now all the statements I am executing within the one single transaction. Since we are declaring at the rate transaction notation, so this entire method will execute within the one single transaction. So this time what will happen, so only whenever we are trying to fetch first time, that time only Hibernate will fetch the results from database. Then as many number of time if you fetch the same details and same request nothing but we are trying to fetch Rohit Sharma, same details. Here also we are trying to fetch Rohit Sharma, here also we are trying to fetch Rohit Sharma, here also we are trying to fetch Rohit Sharma. So whenever we are trying to execute all the statement within the single transaction, and we are trying to fetch same details again and again, so what Hibernate will do, Hibernate will enable by default first level cache. And the first whenever it is executing first time, so the one time only Hibernate will fetch the details from the database. After that it will fetch the details from first level cache, it will not fetch the details from database. Only one time, very first time only it will fetch the details from database. And whenever we are trying to fetch similar details multiple times, so it will not fetch the results from database, it will fetch the results from Hibernate first level cache. So let me save, and you see I just clear the console. Now let me save. You can see in the console only one time. Okay, it's running in debug mode. Okay, so now we can see in the console, if you observe, see, only one time only Hibernate is generated the query to fetch the results from database, and rest all other, see, first time only it is generated the query. If you check second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, if you are trying to fetch same details again and again multiple times, so Hibernate is not generating query to fetch the results from database. So Hibernate is fetching results from first level cache. So this is what about first level cache. I hope you guys are understood. So let me explain you one more important concept. So let me remove the transactional annotation here. We'll see what will happen. Let me clear the console, and I don't want to run all statements within the one single transaction. So if I don't use at the rate transaction annotation, what will happen, so first request, whenever it is executing first statement, it will create new transaction. Whenever we are generating second time, again new transaction is created. Third time new transactions is created. Similarly, how many times we have printing? Five times. So five new transactions will be created. So since new transactions, five five times Hibernate will fetch the results from database. So let me check now. Control save. That's it. So let's see the console. Run it in debug mode. So now no need to debug. I already shown you, right? You can see 1 2 3 4 and 5 times. Since all are new transactions, 5 times Hibernate is generated queries to fetch the results from database. This will cause a performance issue. So sending request multiple times, for example, one user is trying from one laptop, another user is trying from another laptop, multiple users, let's say in multi-threaded environment, if any user is trying to access similar kind of same kind of request, if you send multiple times, we no need to connect with the database every time. So Hibernate will generate the first level cache, and it will first time only it will generate the query, and rest all transactions it will fetch the details from Hibernate first level cache. I hope you guys are understood, right? So Now some people may have doubt now, sir. Okay, so first level Hibernate is fetching first level cache. So where those details are saved? So each and every transaction, let me show you here. So we have sent 5 requests right here. See, 5 transactions are created, right? 5 transaction 1, transaction 2, transaction 3. So transaction nothing but each and every database operation will be one transaction. Okay guys, I hope you understood. Each and every database request which we are sending request, so that will be each and every database call will be one transaction. So how many transaction we send? Transaction 1 and transaction 2, 3, 4 and 5. 2, 3, 4 and 5. So here, so each and every transaction will have persistence context. Persistence persistence context. So internally what will happen whenever each and every database call, nothing but each and every transaction will have persistence context, its own persistence context. Transaction 2 also will have its own persistence context. Similarly, transaction 3, transaction 4, transaction 5. So each and every transaction will have persistence context. So Hibernate will store the information first level whenever in first level cache is enabled by default. So whenever you are trying to fetch the same details, so here whenever you are trying to here for Rohit Sharma 1 I am trying to fetch again 5 times, I am trying to fetch the Rohit Sharma details from the database, right? So every time for each and every request, for each and every request or each and every transaction will have its own persistence context. So whenever first level cache is enabled by default, so whenever you are trying to fetch the same results multiple times, so Hibernate will store the details in persistence context. So the moment, if you go here, the moment first time, so here since I did not declare the transactional rights, so each and every request will be one new transaction. So since it is a new transaction, so Hibernate will generate 5 persistence context. So each and every transaction will have one persistence context. So whenever new transaction has been created, one persistence context will be created. So inside that persistence context, the details of Rohit Sharma will be stored inside that persistence context. So inside the persistence context details will be stored. Okay, since it is a new if it is a new transaction, guys, uh, you have to understand clearly. Okay, so it should be for new, if it is a new transaction, let's say transaction 1, if it is a new transaction, if you don't specify at the rate transaction annotation, what will happen, each and every database request will be one new transaction. So for each and every new transaction we will have persistence context. Whenever you are trying to fetch, select a star from person where person is equal to, let's say Rohit Sharma's id will be 3. So since select a star from person where person id is equal to 3, so for new transaction will be created, so person information will be stored in persistence context. And second time, whenever you are trying to fetch second new transaction, so all the details will be stored in persistence context. Similarly 3 and 4 and 5. So if you declare each and every, for each and every new transaction, one persistent context will be there. So inside that persistence context, these details, whatever details are coming from database, those details will be stored in persistence context. So if you specify at the rate transactional annotation as a single transaction, so this time what will happen? So when you declare a method with at the rate transactional, so then this entire method, see, let me clear the console. See now function f8. So one time, if you check the console, one time only query is generated. So now let me put everywhere breakpoint to make you understand. So 5 places, 1 2 3 4 5. So function f8, see, the details are printed. Function f8, function f8, function f8, see, third time, fourth time, fifth time. So 5 times. First time only Hibernate is generated the query, and those details will be stored internally. Those details will be stored in persistence context of single transaction. So here, since we are we declared as a single transaction, so one persistence context will be generated in background, and all the person information will be stored into that one persistence context. So remaining, whenever you're trying to fetch same details again and again, so these details are being fetched from Hibernate first level cache from persistence context. I hope you guys are understood. Okay guys, so this is how you can test first level cache in Hibernate on JPA. So now, sir, in way to declare at the rate transactional best way. So for example, if you try to create RESTful API, REST API web service, let's assume real-time application. So request will come to controller, service layer, JPA, repository layer. So you can declare in service layer. So for example, if you have service layer class, I think we haven't created service layer, right? Let me check. I did not remember in previous lecture. So now here. Yeah, we haven't created service layer. So for in previous lectures, some examples I have created service class, and then from service to repository layer, or repository layer to database, right? So that time, so better always specify for to make it use of first level caching. It is always better to declare at the rate transactional annotation. At the rate is not printing, so my it is my laptop issue. Let me copy at the rate transactional annotation, and if you check here, so it is always best practice to declare at the rate transactional annotation in service layer. So in generally in real-time environment, whenever we are using RESTful API or web application, that time request will come to controller, then controller to service, and service to JPA repository, and JPA repository will connect to database. So if you declare in service layer at the rate transactional annotation, so whatever database operation which are performing in service layer, each and every method will have first level cache will be enabled. So whenever you are trying to fetch same details every time, so that time every time database call will not be happened. So only one time database call will happen. So after that, so whenever you are trying to fetch same results again and again, those details will be fetched from Hibernate first level cache. I hope you guys are understood, guys. So since I am using here test class, since I am using here one method, so I have declared directly at the rate transactional here. So if you have a service layer, so then is within the service layer, depends on your requirement. If you want to declare your whole service class as a one single transaction, then you can declare at the rate transactional notation in service layer level. Service layer in the sense your service implementation clause is there, right? There you can declare at the rate transactional. If you don't want to specify whole service class as a single transaction, then you can declare at the rate transactional annotation in method level. So if you declare method level, so each and every method will run as a one single new transaction. If you declare this at the rate transactional in service layer level, then all the methods will run in within the one transaction. Okay, I hope you guys are understood. Thank you guys. I will catch you later. So in next lecture I will explain you second level cache. Okay, so in this lecture you will learn how first level cache will work, and what is the advantage of we are enabling Hibernate caching, and what is the disadvantage of creating each and every new transaction, right? So what is the main, let me give summary. So whenever Hibernate is providing two levels of caching, first level cache and second level cache, and what is the purpose of caching mechanism. So whenever you are trying to fetch the same information again and again in multi-threaded environment, or by your whenever multi-threaded environment, or parallelly whenever you are trying to fetch the same details again and again, so that time every time each and every database, each and every API request, so your details will be coming from database. Every time one new request, new query will be generated to fetch the results from database, while retrieving same results multiple times. So instead of multiple database calls, so if you declare a whole all the APIs with one single transaction, then what will happen? So if first level cache will be enabled by default, so first time on very first time only Hibernate will generate the query to fetch the results from database. So next time onwards, if you are trying to fetch same details, so Hibernate will fetch the results from Hibernate first level cache, so where details are, person details are being inserted. Sorry, person details are stored. Person details are stored in each and every transaction will have persistence context, right? So inside the persistence context, your details will be stored successfully. So whenever you are trying to fetch same results again and again from the persistence context, your details will be fetched from your persistence context. Okay, so it, I hope you guys are understood, right? Okay guys, so who are all watching newly, you can subscribe my channel, and you can share and you can like the video, and yeah, who are all watching newly, if you want, let me show you. Go to the browser and you can go to YouTube. Let me type it here so people can understand. So https or slash youtube.com/@ so youtube.com/@ rasul hyphen sheikh slash playlist. So if you go to this channel, so you can watch all the videos. So here you can learn Spring Boots, AngularJS, Spring Data JPA, RESTful Web Services, microservices, Spring Security, and writing JUnit test cases and JWT. So and etc. concept. So all the concept I have covered here. So you can see there is as on today 39 videos are available. So you can learn all the course from scratch by using this channel. Okay, okay guys, subscribe and watch all the videos. If you subscribe, so whenever I am uploading each and every concept, so you will notified, so that you can learn easily. Okay guys, thank you so much. I will explain you second level cache in next lecture.